So people don't like to talk to me at dinner parties because I'm not going to talk to you about the death penalty or the war on drugs. I'm going to talk to you about things like prosecutors.
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 I am here to offer my semi-informed opinions about the power and potential hope in district attorneys and prosecutors to defuck the criminal justice system.
If you are indeed a wizard, then why not use your magic to fix the system?
There's an acknowledgement now, because I'm a public defender, I'm on the front lines, that there's something deeply wrong with the way that our system operates.
Other than the general understanding of how the system works, people have a limited understanding of who the players are and what their actual roles are in the system.
In my experience, people generally know the differences between prosecutors, defense attorneys, and judges.
It's puzzling to me that prosecutors have gotten so little attention when they do so much. And I think it's because they sort of operate in sort of this almost invisible middle space.
But the middle is the most critical part, because the middle, what happens in court, driven by prosecutors and laws that give them a ton of power, both reinforces what happens at the beginning and drives what happens at the end.
But prosecutors don't run the court system. The courts are headed by a judge. It's the judge that determines the sentence, and it's a jury that ultimately determines whether the person is guilty or innocent.
The prosecutor actually is a huge part of how safety is shaped in a city. What is prosecuted and what's not? What are the recommended sentences for people? What does bail look like? The prosecutors actually they are the leverage point there.
They operate with almost unfettered discretion and have been using that discretion to drive, intentionally or not, to drive up our prison populations over the past 25, 30 years.
Prosecutors don't have unlimited power. It's not like we can just do whatever we want. This guy makes it almost seem like prosecutors force criminal defendants to commit crimes. In reality, the power of the prosecutor is limited in a number of ways. First of all, when someone is charged with a crime, they are going to be appointed a defense attorney. And that defense attorney is tasked with defending that person's rights versus the prosecutor. The prosecutors don't write the laws. They're written by the legislature, or in the case of precedents, by the judges. The prosecutor doesn't just get to automatically declare someone guilty. They have to prove it during a public trial, in which case the defense attorney is able to challenge the evidence of the prosecution. And it's ultimately a jury, not the prosecutor, that decides whether or not someone's guilty. And when it comes to what sentence to impose, that decision is made up to the judge. Also, that 2.3 million number that you have up there is bullshit. According to the Bureau of Justice Statistics, the number of people who are in prisons in the United States is 1.5 million.
The reality is that our justice system is overloaded. We charge people with crimes at a rate that is exponentially higher than we could ever take those cases to trial.
The system, as it's designed, encourages prosecutors to seek these wins that are easily countable. Conviction rate, conviction rate, conviction rate. But when you're just chasing numbers, you leave a lot of the humanity out.
Well, I've been a prosecutor for 8 years, and my salary is still the same as it was 8 years ago. I've gotten plenty of convictions in that time, and I've also lost cases. And you know what? It didn't matter. Nothing happened to me, one way or the other. Even when I got a conviction in a high-profile case, I didn't get a bonus. I didn't get any sort of raise. And when I lost trials, nobody cared. This idea that prosecutors are obsessed with their conviction rate, as far as I can tell, is a complete myth.
Out of it.
Without thinking about the real harms that we call it assembly line justice, may have on the individual being prosecuted.
I wish that prosecutors get to know the people that I represent. I try to introduce them to a person who's not just a criminal, who isn't just the product of all the worst things he or she has ever been accused of doing.
Okay, well, you're a defense attorney, right? If you have a client who you get to meet and they have some compelling story about how incarceration is going to ruin their life, then why don't you relay that to the prosecutor? Why don't you set a settlement conference where your client can address the prosecutor directly and explain to them what the issue is? This happens all the time. I've partaked in hundreds of these settlement conferences. Sometimes I've dramatically changed the plea offer after talking to someone. Not always, but sometimes.
It takes some vision. It takes some bravery to be a prosecutor who says, this isn't right. This isn't how I want an office to function, and this isn't the role I want my office to be playing in the deterioration of communities.
And one of the things that has been powerful over the past couple of years is that people, advocates have been informing citizens about the immense power that the district attorneys have across the country to actually change the way criminal justice looks.
Prosecutors tomorrow could change the justice system if they wanted to.
The prosecutor or DA has total control over reform. In fact, we can't have real reform without them.
What is it exactly that you people want? Your elected district attorney in Brooklyn is Eric Gonzalez. I can't imagine a more liberal left-wing candidate than that. And on top of that, he's a minority, so he's got that going for him too. His two primary campaign platforms were that he wasn't going to charge illegal immigrants when they commit crimes so that they wouldn't be deported, and that he was going to adopt the bail reform program that you people were talking about earlier in the video. So I don't know what you want. What do you expect? You already have a very left-wing district attorney in Brooklyn. What more do you want?
In 2018, over 1,000 of those elected prosecutors are up for election.
Each of those represents a chance for that particular community to make a statement.
What the public wants to have happen is what the district attorney should be doing.
Okay, so let's say I get elected. How am I just supposed to end mass incarceration? How am I supposed to do that? Just stop charging people with crimes? Is that what you want? We're just not going to charge anyone with crimes anymore? We're never going to send anyone to prison? Everyone just gets probation, and when they violate probation, they just get put back on probation? How do you think this is feasibly going to work? How do you think society will function? There is no way someone can just get elected district attorney and then with a flick of a pen end mass incarceration.
Local DAs respond to the local electorate, and they are the only people who have any control over them. And so the way to control who's at the top is to vote.
I care about voting in a democracy. I know, it's old-fashioned.
An elected district attorney has the power to set policy for an office of hundreds of lawyers, which in turn has a ripple effect to thousands and thousands of cases every month in the system.
One of the things that I'm always mindful of is that people made this system, so people can remake the system, people can transform the system, people can undo the damage and build new, imaginative, beautiful things that actually do work for people. And I think that that's the moment that we're in now.
So yeah, it's super, it's like a big deal.
So these people have spent this entire video leading up to the conclusion that, hey, we can easily solve the problem of mass incarceration. It just involves electing people to district attorney. But they offer no viable alternative. They don't give any ideas on how to make the system better. They just criticize the system that currently exists. And you notice none of these people are running for district attorney. That's because they don't have any ideas. They wouldn't know how to do the job. I mean, look at the one guy who's a public defender. If that guy was so concerned with the amount of power that prosecutors have, then why didn't he become a prosecutor and try and change things? Instead, he became a defense attorney. It just doesn't make any sense.